Mike, we're here in Milwaukee.
Yes.
UFC on Fox 31, but it's the end of an era, right? I mean, this is the last show on Big Fox for 7 years. I mean, you've been a big part of that the past few years with broadcasting. You fought on Big Fox cards. I wonder if you could kind of take me through a little bit of the history of sort of what this broadcast deal has meant for MMA and for the UFC, because, you know, at the time it really was kind of a landmark thing, wasn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this was the beginning of mixed martial arts, the UFC really becoming mainstream and going to the next level. I mean, the sport was popular in 2010, 2011, but nowhere near the level that it is now. And that's down to, you know, the fact that Fox, obviously it was on Big Fox and Fox Sports for a long time. When you're alongside major sports like football and the NBA, things like that, it just gives you credibility, you know, and yeah, it helped change the landscape for sure. You know, it certainly helped make the sport bigger. For me personally, it was huge to be a part of it. I mean, I now work in TV predominantly. That's what I do, you know. And prior to
those guys helped you cut your teeth?
No, of course they did. Right? Yeah, I remember the first time on the set, I was nervous as hell. I didn't know what I was doing, you know, and I was rambling away. And
now you're just an old pro.
Yeah, I guess you could say that. Yeah, you know. But thanks to the whole production team at Fox, they, you know, they helped me through it, coaxed me along, told me when to shut up, and told me when to slow down and things, you know. But yeah, you know, life goes on. It is what it is. It was a great partner, and yeah, time to move on though.
Well, you know, they're not holding back. There's 4 great fights.
Yep.
These are 4, you know, potential fight of the night fights that you got on the main card. So let's start right out if we can with that Jim Miller, Charles Oliveira fight. It's a rematch from 8 years ago. I guess I'm wondering, does that even matter that they fought 8 years ago? Are they both different now?
Yeah, I don't think so. Of course, that first fight ended pretty quick. Oliveira was going for some heel hooks, and Jim Miller transitioned to a knee bar. Veteran move, nicely done. Everyone knows Jim Miller's savvy on the ground. 8 years. The reason why that might be an issue, though, is because Jim Miller is now 35, whereas Charles is still relatively young. So I'm not saying Jim is past his best, but it is a young man's game. You know, now with age does come experience and does come more knowledge, so that will be beneficial. But if your reactions are a little bit slower, you know, one false move in MMA and it could be game over. Charles Oliveira, of course, he's got the most submission wins in the UFC, 11. He's deadly on the ground. But if Jim can keep it on the feet, which he's probably going to want to do, even though he won by submission last time, he's going to want to keep it on the feet. But Charles is deadly on the feet as well. He's got excellent tie clinch, good head kicks, and probably, you know, with the greatest respect to Jim, probably a better athlete as well. But Jim's just tough. Jim's tough, and that's why everybody loves him, you know, and obviously very skilled with the toughness. So that's a great fight, you know. Can't wait.
Would you say Charles has a lot more to gain from this than Jim does? I mean, Jim struggled recently. He bounced back recently.
Yep.
But a win for him is probably not going to catapult him up the rankings very quickly, whereas Charles needs to keep winning so that he can stay up there.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Jim Miller's been around for you know, he's part of the furniture with the UFC. He's been around a long time. I think a win for Jim Miller, he's not going to get a title shot or anything like that. And I don't know if those days, maybe those days are behind him. He's trying to have some fun fights now, and I mean that with the greatest of respect. Charles Oliveira, he's still a guy that's capable of fighting for the belt. So's Jim. But, you know, I think the narrative in this is that Jim Miller's, you know, probably going to have a handful more fights and maybe call it a day. I don't know. Maybe he'll fight for another 10 years. Charles Oliveira, though, certainly has potential to be a champion. The way he can finish people, he's young, he's got good striking, he's well rounded. So yeah, I think Charles has more to gain from this fight. But on the night, you know, pride is a big thing. So it doesn't matter who's got more to win or lose or whatever. Both competitors want to win, and that's why everyone loves Jim Miller.
Maybe the biggest pop from the fans Saturday night will probably come from Sergio Pettis. The storyline seems to be in this when he's moving up from flyweight to bantamweight. He says maybe that had a little bit to do with the rumors that flyweight might be going away. But tell me what you think about him moving back up. He's fought there before, but he's fighting a guy who's fought at featherweight and at lightweight before. So is size going to play a factor?
Yeah. It's a difficult fight for Sergio. It really is. Rob Font is a hard-hitting guy, you know, and he's got a bit of momentum around him. Sergio, fantastically skilled, very good fighter. Of course, a local as well. So as you say, going to get a big cheer from the crowd, and rightly so. But I think it's fair to say that Sergio isn't a knockout guy. You know, he's very technical, excellent skills, very dynamic striker, but he's not a knockout guy. And going up a weight class, he's gonna. I mean, who knows? Maybe he struggled to make 125. Maybe he dieted down so much that he lost power. I know that I did. When I went down a weight class, I certainly lost power.
He said he's walked around before as high as 170.
Oh, really?
Down to 125.
Oh, well, going down from 170 to 125, I mean, that's a hell, yeah, it's crazy. It really is. So you're going to lose power. So who knows? Maybe we see him, even though it seems that he's going up a weight class, it seems a little dangerous. Maybe we'll see him bring some more power there. So it's an interesting fight. As I say, Rob Font, very dangerous hands, and he's very aggressive as well. I'm looking forward to that fight.
Let's talk about the co-main event. It's one of those ones, every card has one where people say, oh, it's got fight of the night written all over. But this one really seems to be between Edson Barboza and Dan Hooker. Hooker seems like he's kind of flying under the radar with a lot of fans, but he's got 4 straight wins. He's got 4 straight finishes. Is this the kind of name, a win over Edson Barboza, that can put him over the top with the casual fans?
Yeah, absolutely. Everyone needs that name on their resume. Dan Hooker's doing everything right, as you say. 4 straight wins, 4 straight finishes. That's incredible alone. But it's against competition that aren't particularly household names or people are generally aware of. They're like mid FS1 prelim fighters, you know what I mean? Now, as I say, you got to rise as you go along in your career. Now he's fighting Edson Barboza. Now we'll see what he's made of. I mean, he beat Ross Pearson. That was a devastating knockout. And Jim Miller. These are against tough veterans. But Edson Barboza is still a guy that's in his prime. Yes, he lost his last 2 fights against very, very tough wrestlers. This is finally a match where he gets to stand and show the world why Edson Barboza was renowned as one of the greatest. His striking's incredible. His leg kicks, his kicking game in general, but his punches as well. He's well-rounded, knees, you name it, he does it all. For Dan Hooker, this is a chance for him to beat him and say to the world that I'm a contender. I deserve, to be considered for a title fight sometime soon. But is it too much too soon? It might be. It might be. I know Edson's going to be super motivated coming into this fight. His last 2 fights, they were disappointing losses, to say the least. They were shutouts, and the only thing that he showed in his last 2 fights is that he can take a beating well. And that's all well and good, but you don't want to be known as the guy who takes a beating well. You know what I mean? That's not what we get into this for. Yeah, it's nice when they say, oh my God, he's such a warrior. He didn't tap, he didn't give in. Well, that's great. But guess what? When you hear those kind of comments as a fighter, you die inside. Because you want to be the guy dishing out the damage, not taking the damage. So he's coming in super motivated. And as I say, the matchup for both of them, as you say, it's cliched, fight of the night written all over it, but it really does.
Let's talk about the main event. Another rematch. Kevin Lee, Ally Kinta. Again, it's almost 5 years ago, so I mean, have these guys each grown so much in those 5 years that you throw that first one out of the books? I mean, that was Kevin Lee's first fight in the UFC, and he lost.
Oh, was it really?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah.
But is that one meaningless at this point? You just look at what's happened in the past couple of years?
Yeah, I mean, as you say, the first fight in the UFC. So when it's your first fight in the UFC, there's a lot of nerves there, So I wasn't aware of that until you said that. So that does change some things. Now, when you look at Kevin Lee in that fight towards Kevin Lee now, he looks like a different fighter, completely, physically, mentally. The attitude he has, the swagger. He's very, very confident these days, and he's certainly been, developing as an athlete. You can see it. Of course, he's got devastating wrestling. Striking looks good. Ally Quinta's well-rounded, good wrestling, good jiu-jitsu, good camp, well-experienced. Heavy hands. He first came on my radar when he knocked out Ross Pearson in Australia in 2014, and I've kept a close eye on him ever since. And look what he did against Khabib. I mean, people said that Khabib didn't look good in that fight. Well, that's because Al made it a closer fight than what people would have liked to have seen. So Ally Quinta's one of those guys that could be the champion. He really could, but. He's championship material, should I say. Of course, Khabib beat him soundly, and he's the champ. But he's championship material. He's that level of caliber. So, I mean, this is a great fight. They both talked a little bit of smack coming into it. That's always, always makes it fun, always makes it a little spicy. But Kevin Lee called him a stepping stone. He said, he's my stepping stone to a title. And as soon as I saw that, I was like, oh, I don't know about that one. I don't think you should call an opponent a stepping stone. Yes, be confident. Yes, think you're going to win. But as soon as you start using words like this guy's a stepping stone, that's when I start thinking, oh, he's taking him a little lightly here. So we'll see what happens.
Should definitely make it interesting. Well, enjoy the fights. Last big one on Fox, and then we'll look forward to the future.
There you go.
Appreciate it, man. Thank you so much.